All phones on silent. Don't allow anyone to come in, please. Welcome to OPM Connect, the program that gives you an insight into government plans and programs. It's an interactive program, so we expect that our viewers on social media will be able to participate and ask questions. I'm Naomi Francis, the Press Secretary at the Office of the Prime Minister. Today we speak education matters. We're pleased to be joined by the Permanent Secretary Acting in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, Dr. Grace McLean, Mrs. Winnie Berry, the Chief Education Officer acting at the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information, and Dr. Cassandre Troop, the Regional Director for Region 1 in the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. And so I think this is almost a dream team of education, so to speak, a wealth of knowledge, experience, and information that you have to share with us. So let me start off, Dr. McLean. Today really heralded the start of the new academic year. Tell us how that went.
To welcome close to 500,000 students who would have been on 2 months of holiday back to schools.
Parents are happy.
Well, I'm sure the parents are happy. The team at the ministry has worked exceptionally hard to address the critical matters so as to ensure that we can be off to a smooth start. And indication so far is that we have been off to quite a smooth start. We are aware of some issues in Clarendon and St. Catherine where we understand that there were industrial action by one major taxi association, and so some parents experienced some difficulty in actually getting the children to school. We, however, as some principals have indicated, they would have exercised some kind of concerns as it relates to the students, not concerns, some kind of leniency as to the students coming to school on time and would ensure that they are not penalized. We continue the process during the course of this week. Many of our schools have started a phased approach to the full opening, and so the true test of the system is not going to be until next week. We, however, we are monitoring very closely what is going on. Our regional directors in our 6 educational regions are monitoring closely, and as the little needs arises, we will ensure that, as the little needs arise rather, we will ensure that those needs are sorted out. We are aware, Naomi, that in some instances, we have increased enrollment in some of these schools for one reason or another. And hence, if there is increased enrollment, then there is the need for additional furniture, there may be the need for additional books, and there may also be the need for additional teachers. Yes. So these are areas that we must be on the alert within the course of this week to ensure that we address as the principals bring these to our attention. We are also aware that within the last 2 weeks and even since today, we have heard of other teachers who have handed in their resignations. We had put a system in place for the teacher migration matter that we are currently experiencing. And so we will be making contact with those principals to ensure that teachers can be made available for those areas that they are leaving in.
Before I get to Mrs. Berry and Dr. Troop, then, if you could explain a little bit more about that teacher recruitment issue, because some parents would be very concerned, as would all Jamaica really be concerned in terms of the migration of teachers from the classroom. Right. What is the ministry putting in place to ensure that there isn't any gap?
Right. So every 3 to 4 years, we have this mass migration, and there's a particular year where it seems to be more difficult than the other years. The number increased. This seemed to be the year after maybe about 2013 or thereabout. So we have been tracking the data. So we have the data as it relates to the number of teachers that are required for different subject areas. Mathematics, for example, English language, the sciences, and specifically some of the technical and vocational areas. We lose each year approximately 250 of our teachers, or about 1% of the total teacher cohort that we must fill. 250 may seem small when you look at 25,000 teachers,
yes.
But we are talking about each child having the opportunity for a teacher to engage them in the, engage him or her in the teaching learning process, so it becomes very important. So the ministry, having done its survey across the region, we decided to put some direct strategies in place to address this. One strategy has to do with us engaging teachers who have retired from the service over the last 5 years or so, depending on the availability as well as the competence of the teachers. We have provided information through our regional officers to our schools, so they now have the opportunity to engage persons who are available to teach in the areas that we are short in. We have also engaged specifically our tertiary institutions where there are teachers who will go on practice teaching and who in some cases, through guided support of course, can assist in terms of teaching some aspects of the curriculum, especially at the lower level. We are currently fine-tuning our flipped classroom initiative, which is to have some lessons being done at a central location where there are some schools that do have the technology that will benefit from these lessons. In those cases, however, we will have the practice teachers who will guide those who are actually in the remote location so that some support can be provided. We also had 100 and, well, I think the number has increased, Mrs. Berry, to close to a little over 200 teachers who completed their training at 3 of our
yes.
tertiary institutions, the Jamaica College, Church Teachers College, and Montego College. They actually started training in 2015 when the Ministry of Finance gave us a budget to commence the preparation of these teachers, because we saw where we lost many teachers in 2013 and we were not able to regain those that we lost. Right. And so that 200 plus teachers came in very handy. We conducted 2 fairs, 2 employment tertiary fairs, and at those fairs we had principals who came, and teachers, new teachers were interviewed and actually selected for jobs. So that 200 has really placed us in a much better position than we would have been in previous years. Interestingly too, Naomi, we also have contacts with some of the recruiters. And so they advise the ministry ahead of time in terms of what the number of teachers that they will likely recruit, or those who have expressed an interest. Unfortunately, they do not give us the names and where these teachers are from, so we can't address it directly, but at least we have an indication. Once we get that information, which we have been getting, we have been able to match those who are available based on the initiatives that I spoke about before to those jobs that are available.
So it sounds that there is a mapping process and a comprehensive plan to put in place issues that would come up in terms of staffing.
Yes, definitely. And we have given our schools up to September 12 to submit all the information that they have in teachers that they may lose during this 2 weeks period.
Yes.
And we are committed to doing everything that is necessary to ensure that we have teachers to support the system.
Thank you. Mrs. Berry, Dr. McLean raised a very good point in terms of ensuring that the ministry uses data-driven analysis to plan what they're doing. And I'm sure that happens too with funding, especially regarding the infrastructure of schools. If you could speak to us concerning the level of funding that was allocated for the restart of the new school year and what the actual physical school plans needed.
It is true that in this era, we are ensuring that we use data to treat with the issues as they're presented. This year, like none other, we did an audit of the entire system. And so we know exactly the costs for infrastructure in terms of what the needs are, the needs for human resources, as well as equipment. In terms of infrastructure this year, we have engaged in an extensive program to ensure that many of our critical repairs are being done. Repairs to our canteens or roofs to our classrooms or pavements or windows and so on. We have spent, I think, already close to over $300 million, I think, Dr. McLean, in treating with infrastructural issues, and they continue.
Thank you so much. And so, Dr. Troop, you're responsible for Region 1. Region 1 really incorporates the corporate area, so to speak, Kingston and St. Andrew. In terms of an update for the start of the school year, how did that go today?
Today went very well, Naomi. We are very impressed with the leadership of our schools. We have been in contact with them over the months, June, July, August. And even the last 2 weeks, our principals have been on the ground. Everybody would have been back from their vacation period, and they have been aggressively making sure that the schools are adequately prepared for our students. Even last night, we were conducting conversations, just checking to make sure that everybody is okay. The principals have been responding. Dr. McLean alluded to the fact that our agencies have been very helpful. You would have been aware of the water challenges in the corporate area.
That was my next issue.
NWC has been extremely responsive. They have given us the personal numbers of their supervisors, and they have taken our list, they have taken our calls, they have taken the calls of even our principals, and have logged their queries and have been responding to them. Every single school got water over the weekend. Yes, we had the little issue of the social water challenge, but this morning NWC was responsive. And because we have the storage facilities in our schools, what we had there today, we would have been able to operate schools. And those schools that are so challenged will get water this afternoon.
And so is this an island-wide kind of response as well to the water issues that we're having? I know that, you know, the water issues primarily are on the eastern section of the island. So, for example, the western section wouldn't have it as acute, but is it an island-wide response from the ministry's standpoint?
Right, and it has been. The National Water Commission has actually dealt with, or is responsible for Region 1, Kingston and St. Andrew Region 2, which is Portland, St. Mary, and St. Thomas, as well as Region 6, which is Clarendon and St. Catherine. We had quite a bit of challenges in Region 2 as well, and they have responded. There were 3 schools because of the terrain in Portland. Of course, the trucks were not able to get to these schools, but they work out alternative where barrels were actually filled. And this is really how those schools have always operated, so that school could actually begin. We did not have significant challenges in Region 6 relating to water. The few that we had, they were able to address. We also engaged the mayor of Montego Bay, who is responsible for the rural water irrigation and there's another name, system. Yes. And he has been really very responsive in catering to all the needs on the western side of the island. So based on his network, in terms of water being available and trucks being available, he worked directly with the regional director in Region 4. And before the weekend, we were able to address all the issues that we had on that side of the island. Yes. Naomi, today is just the start. Yes. So we expect that this is the start of a long-term relationship with our other agencies until we are blessed with more water that will make sure that we have it in abundance. Indeed. But we are really grateful for the support that has been provided. We never had many complaints from schools in Region 5, which would be St. Elizabeth and Manchester, nor Region 3, which is Trelawney and St. Anne.
We're speaking with the team from the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information on issues concerning the start of the new academic year. So far, we've touched on how smooth things have gone today, and to the issue of water supply in the schools, and of course the issue of transportation that has affected some schools in Region 6. I'll invite all our viewers on social media to send your questions and comments in, so we'll be able to pose to the team here from the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. I want to get specifically to the issue of early childhood education, primary education and secondary, because I know there are different needs at different cohorts, so to speak. And Mrs. Berry, if you could, give us really some of the achievements in early childhood and primary education at the start.
Thank you, Naomi. The ministry has embarked on a policy called the K-13 strategy.
Yes.
And it means that we are seeking to address learning from the womb. And so we are seeking to engage mothers who are pregnant to treat with issues that may present themselves to ensure that the child, when born, will be stable as we consider it. We also have engaged what we have termed the Brain Builders Program, which ensure that nurseries are formally engaged within our education system, and they are fitted with the requisite care in terms of caregivers and so on, and materials to support stimulation. These are just some of the efforts being made to ensure that our children at the early stage have a great opportunity for achieving great outcomes.
And I'm aware that the Early Childhood Commission too has an elaborate plan to deal with early childhood commission, and they do have a whole sector for that. So we'll engage those persons there on another program. But to now, especially regarding the issue of PEP, this year was the standard, so to speak, because it was the first year of the cohorts getting into high school. How are we going to tweak and improve aspects of that to allay the fears of parents or have students in grade 6 going on to high school?
Well, let me start, Naomi. We are out of the blocks early. We have already started to engage our new Jamaica Teachers Association president, who actually in his inaugural speech as president, he outlined some areas that he would like us to have a look at. We met with him last week, Thursday. We went through some of these areas. He has made some counter proposals based on what we presented, and there is another meeting that will take place next week with our minister and the entire team where that whole discussion is going to be had so that we can finalize. We have taken the feedback from the entire country, and we do thank all Jamaicans for being active participants in education. We analyzed the framework, the feedback that we got, as well as the general administration, and we have already, for the new school year, sent a bulletin to the system to indicate when the results will be ready for the PEP 4, which is in September here, I believe is September 13, as well as the results for PEP 5, which will be available in October. We have also indicated the format of the report, which is similar to the PEP 6 report. We have also proposed some tentative dates for the ability tests, the curriculum-based tests, as well as the performance task for PEP 6, and that is subject to further consultation across the country to ensure that we are supporting all our teachers. So within the month of September, we will have that finalized. We have already started to put things in place in terms of course, the questions being prepared and being properly vetted, and for the printing to be done ahead of time. And we also have started the preparation of our regional education officers who are now going to be engaging our teachers in the quality education circles to respond to all concerns and issues that they had during the first administration. So we expect to have all of this completed before the end of November. Right. So we will have a more concrete plan responding to the needs of our people for the new cycle of PEP.
Any plans to engage parents as well? Because some of the fears coming really it's primarily because the parents don't fully understand as well and have yet to embrace the change in how we assess our children.
Right. So the National Parenting Support Commission is are taking on a program to engage our parents, which we are actually looking forward to. I should have also mentioned that we are now creating an app for parents specifically. As a matter of fact, we are expecting that by early October, we will be able to release the PEP 5 reports results on this app, which will also give them a guided tour in terms of how the marks are to be interpreted, how it is related to the curriculum, and what does it say about my child. So with this, we expect that at least there will be better information for our parents, coupled with what the National Parenting Support Commission will be doing. Naomi, one thing that is critical, our teachers interact and interface directly with parents, and many teachers are also parents.
Yes.
So once we can get our teachers to fully understand, then we are confident that our parents will also have a better understanding. It is still early days yet, it is the first year, so we are definitely going to be pushing this year to make sure that there's a better understanding. I also have to congratulate our parents, and Dr. Troop will agree, because all our parents have printed the PEP reports, and they are utilizing these reports when they are seeking transfers or when they are going to the high schools to speak about their child entering. They actually print the PEP report that we have provided. That's a first, actually. GSAT, what they would do, they would not print the GSAT report, even though there was a GSAT report. They would have just taken off the percentage scores and they would put it on a little slip, and that is what they would take to the high school. So if we have not won any battle, we have won the one where they're actually using the official report from the ministry.
Small steps are adding up.
Small steps,
Wonderful.
low-hanging fruits.
Wonderful. I want to touch on secondary education, but before we do that, Dr. Berry, I have a question on Facebook, on the Prime Minister's Facebook page. Carlene Clark is asking, are there reading programs in the primary school? So the reading issue, especially at the primary level, continues to be an issue that a lot of parents are talking about as well.
And certainly, there are reading programs. As a matter of fact, the National Standards Curriculum is designed in such a way that grades 1 to 3, that segment of our education system at primary, that segment has a well-defined reading program. The National Curriculum, Standards Curriculum, has well-defined objectives to treat with reading in a way that the revised primary curriculum, the RPC, did not. And so we have advanced in that field. In addition to that, presently we are collaborating with the Jamaica Library Services, and you would know that annually they have a reading program. We are engaging all our children, all our students at grade 3 to be part of that program. Of course, we will have the best submissions to be part of the community and parish levels. So that's another program. We would have done our grade 3 diagnostic test. And at that level, we'll be able to pick up well-defined weaknesses that we're able to treat with early. Literacy being among the common complaints. And so interventions have been designed to treat with these reading needs. To say that is a fulsome approach, we continue to treat with these needs, looking for even more cutting-edge methodologies that will enhance reading. We encourage the learning communities. Again, you mentioned parents, where parents become a part of the learning space in schools. And we think that this kind of engagement also will advance literacy. So indeed,
Mrs. Berry, it sounds to me that the ministry is very responsive. You look at what is happening, assess the needs, re-engage, and then implement. So it seems like while there are issues in the system, we're making improvements incrementally to certainly have 100% at some point in the future.
And of course, we have or support materials or literacy 1, 2, 3 materials which engage the students at that level. And we have reaped success based on what the data says. So we are improving. You would have known that our literacy rate has improved over the years.
Yes.
We're not very happy that in the last few years we have slipped a percentage or two. But I think as a nation we have shown great strides when it comes to literacy, and we'll continue to push.
Let's get to secondary education now. Many students would have been happy, some sad, at the passes at the CSEC level. But I've always maintained that exam passes is not the sum total of the experience of the education, secondary education system. And there are certain things that you look for apart from the exam passes that would give you hope or give you a chance to tweak certain things. So let me find out where are the wins and the achievements at the secondary level?
Let me start, Naomi, with the policy-related area, which has to do with the National School Leaving Certificate, which we will be piloting in about 30 schools for this new school year. This is the final leg of the K-13 strategy that Mrs. Berry mentioned earlier, where we are trying to take all our students up to the end of grade 13. They will leave grade 13 with their CSEC at grade 11, their CAPE or their City and Guilds, their occupational degree, their national vocational qualification. All of these will be captured as a part of the National School Leaving Certificate, along with their involvement in sports, social and cultural activities, as well as their behavioral competencies. So it is almost as like we are presenting to our students a national high school diploma, yes, which captures the student as a person who has benefited from well-rounded education, absolutely, who is ready to move on to higher level or is ready to move into the world of work. At the level at an associate degree, it means that just 2 additional years will provide them with a degree. So that's a policy that we are advancing. And so Mrs. Berry can speak a little more in terms of the details of those programs.
Yes, Mrs. Berry.
All right, and so Dr. McLean again reiterated the K-13 strategy. At grades 7 to 9, we would have just seen our students getting their primary exit profile results. And these results provide for us in detail information about the child's strengths or student's strengths and weaknesses. It has helped us in a more deliberate way to identify the pathways for these students. Now, these pathways are not fixed.
Yes.
They're fluid. So a student could be in the developing stage, pathway 2, and after a term, the student shows remarkable improvement, because at this stage, sometimes there are challenges with just writing an exam.
Yes.
And so this student could just move into the regular pathway with the right coaching. And we are providing coaches on pathways 1, pathways 2, and pathways 3. Pathway 3 will see the students who have more challenges.
Yes.
These students, for the most part, have special needs. Many of these students would have had challenges with their literacy exam at grade 4. Many of them would have had challenges, no doubt, with their numeracy exam. And special needs coaches have been so trained to treat with many of these needs. It is not impossible for a child to have shown improvement, perhaps to go to pathway 2, yes, because that could very well happen. And so the learning pathways have been so designed to treat with learning needs. It's differentiated, it's a kind of differentiated approach. This is a part of our strategy. And so I have just addressed the strategy at 7 to 9.
Right.
When the student gets to grade 9, student is ready to select more so a career path. These may not be fixed,
yes,
but you may be able to map them map careers onto the subject areas that a student may identify. And so students may identify the vocational areas, they may identify the regular classical academic path.
Yes.
A student may choose to select from both areas. And so, again, the coaching continues, the focus continues. Dr. McLean has explained what happens beyond grade 11, where the student would have got their CVQs, or their NVQs, or their CXEs, or their City and Guilds, and then to move to the next level at sixth form, where you'd have had the classical CAPE subjects, or you would have the City and Guilds at that level, or you would have their, right.
Very important point, and I see where social media is now getting very involved in asking some questions. We're going to take all those questions, but I want to just also find out, Dr. Troop, is the curriculum so structured to allow a student to be able to express all those wants and desires that they have to be anything they want to be? So for example, are we still saying, you know, if you're choosing the science subjects, you really can't do too many of the arts, that kind of a thing?
Well, the curriculum is that structured, Naomi. We are implementing what we call a responsive, customized program of education at this stage in Jamaica. We are proud of our model, and that is where our teachers are able to redesign the programs of intervention to meet the students at their level of need. And that is what the pathway approach is about. We are conscious that our children are different. We are conscious that our program we are conscious that our students are different, and we have to respond to their differences. So our teachers have been so trained, our leaders have been so trained, and we are pulling on the instructional experts of our teachers to make sure that we are responding to the needs of our children.
All right, let's get to a question from Facebook. Veronica Bailey is asking, why is there a charge, and we're getting to issues now that are affecting them at the brass tacks level, so to speak, in terms of parents who have children in schools. Veronica Bailey is asking, why is there a charge to go to school? When I was going to school, it was free. Why the sudden change? And I'm sure now we'll be able to speak to Veronica about the policy first of government, and then really what happens on the ground and what the ministry does to ensure that the government policy is enforced, and of course to ensure that parents are comfortable. So Dr. McLean.
Right, so Naomi, the government has a non-mandatory contribution policy, and this policy was implemented in 2016. What this policy speaks to is that the ministry will take care, the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information will support the core of education. So we provide the funding that's needed for the basic core of education, and any additional support that is needed can be facilitated through what we call parent contribution. So we are encouraging a partnership between our parents as well as our schools, but we are also saying that no student should be prevented from entering school because the parent has not provided a contribution.
And Dr. McLean, just for transparency and clarity, the ministry does give every school an amount every year, money, a budget every year that you send to them per student. You even take it down to per student. Would you be able to share generally what that average is?
So we have a budget of about $5.3 billion for what we call the regular grant. This takes care of all the operational expenses at both the primary as well as the secondary level. From this amount of $5.3 billion, we provide a maximum of $19,000 to students per student at the secondary level to each school. So their overall, that would be times their overall enrollment right up to the sixth form level. At the primary level, we provide an amount of $2,500 per student. That is the infant schools, infant departments, as well as the end of primary. In addition to that, we pay all the teachers. We also provide selected grants for different schools depending on their programs. So some of the schools are on the infrastructure program, so there's an additional that is provided. We provide a curriculum grant of 500,000 per school at the high school and up to 100,000 at primary. We also provide a maintenance grant of 500,000 at high schools and $150,000 at the primary level. And as we review the budget from the different schools, then we also make a determination as to the support to be provided for temporary and part-time teachers and any other unique needs that the schools may have. We, however, noted, Naomi, just to answer the question, that schools have different programs, and of course they are governed by a board that is mandated by the minister to create the ethos of the school and to ensure that at least the school operating in an overall structure that is acceptable. And so there are schools that will have long-term plans, let's say for example building a swimming pool. There are schools that will determine that they need each child to have a particular handbook that speaks about the history of the school. There are some schools that will determine the type of epaulets that they wear, the ties, and so on. And so there are some items that parents will have to pay directly for because they are consumables. They are things that the students benefit from.
And that is not involved in what the ministry provides.
And that's not really involved in what the ministry provides. What we have said to the schools, try as best as possible to make sure that your policies do not create an additional burden on the students. So if you are able to access some epaulets from a child that just graduated from the school, the parent should not be forced to buy new epaulets if those can be used accordingly. So we have encouraged our schools to understand the economic situation of our parents. And in some cases too, where the schools bring to our attention the difficulty that they're having with some of the parents and some children who we call the vulnerable poor. Those are the ones who are not on path, because we provide $2,000 for the students on path to purchase those things. Then the ministry steps in and provide additional support that is required. So we are just encouraging our schools administrators to continue to work in partnership with the ministry to lessen the burden on our parents who really sometimes just can't afford all the things that are required.
You speak on funding for schools, but there's also an extra special funding for special needs schools as well.
Yes.
Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yes, we do not turn back any child that is considered to be special. It has always been a policy of the ministry. Once the information is brought to our attention, we pay the fee for the school that the child is placed. It really does not matter the cost. There are some fees that go up to $200,000, which we provide. We work out an arrangement with the schools. We provide teachers or payment for teachers as needed, and we try as best as possible to provide whatever additional support is required. We even provide support in terms of the parents getting the assessment report, which is necessary for us to determine the most appropriate placement for that child.
So there really should be no anxiety of a parent who has a special needs child to ensure that they complete the education process in Jamaica.
There is anxiety because the parents sometimes do not have all the information that is required. That is why, Naomi, I would like them to see our regional directors. Dr. Troop is an example as the avenue through which you can get information and support so that you can be channeled into the right direction. So we have our 6 offices across the island. They are strategically positioned, and we are asking our parents not to feel that the ministry will not support. We are there as the arm of government to support the needs of our children so that they can access their education. So that's where we have the challenge, Naomi. We need to be able to get this information out so that our special needs parents understand that. Don't be embarrassed. Don't feel that you did something wrong why your child is experiencing whatever it is in terms of the need. We are here to support.
Thank you for that, Dr. McLean, and I'm sure many parents will take that up. Before I get back to two of the questions on social media, I wanted to get a better understanding of the concept of twinning schools. And Dr. Troop, I know that you are front and center of that project.
Yes, front and center because Region 1 is front and center. Yes. But it's a program that will include all our 6 regions, Naomi. My CEO spoke earlier about our responsive programs in our high schools to treat with the needs of our children. The Ministry of Education is extremely proud as it relates to cutting-edge innovations to ensure that we have model schools and we tap in the excellence of our children. The Twinning Schools program is really designed to enable that. It's really pulling on the agency of our leaders, our teachers, our parents, our past students, our students. Because we recognize, Naomi, that the skill set and the passion, the collective will to transform this country resonate with all of us. The Ministry of Education is going to harness that passion, that will, that expertise to support the development of our children.
So tell us how it will practically work.
Practically, yes. We have 35 traditional high schools in Jamaica, an additional about 5 or so schools of excellence that we are going to be pulling on in the other phase of the program. We are going to pull these traditional high schools and pair them with upgraded high schools that are somewhat struggling in terms of performance. We are concerned about the performance of our children, and as a ministry, we have the responsibility to respond to that underperformance. So we are pulling the traditional high schools that have maturational strength, that would have done well over the years. Under our NEI, our National Education Inspectorate, would have been ranked as good or exceptionally high. We don't want all of that to resonate with 1 or 2 or 35 schools. We want to pull on that into our additional high schools. We have 171 high schools across this country. And we want to pull those strengths, those expertise, those successes across the system, not only from the traditional high schools, because you would, from my experience and from my antecedents, would know that our non-traditional high schools are doing well, have done well, and have put out successful students, and have teachers who are bright, who are resourceful. We want to pull on the skill set from both sides of the fence, to pull our students in the center and to develop them and to respond to their needs.
Have we engaged all the stakeholders for this? Because this is really a first for Jamaica in terms of how we roll it out. Yes. Have we engaged all the stakeholders to make sure we have that buy-in?
We have. It's not really a first for us. I want to give credit to a number of our principals who have been working together on the ground.
More a national effort now.
It's more a national effort being enabled by the Ministry of Education because we have recognized the benefit of this. We have recognized that our principals, our leaders, they want to work together. And a part of the strength of this twinning in school model, Naomi, is that we rely on the leaders and the teachers to design what it will look like on the ground. We have chosen as a ministry not to impose a particular framework. We have an idea of how twinning works. Twinning can be leader to leader. It can be teacher to teacher. It can be observations. It can be walkthroughs. It can be training together. You know, there are a plethora of activities that can happen under our Twinning in Schools program. But we have said to our leaders, we want you to sit together, look at your current context, look at your school, look at my school. What can we build together in aid of our children? And our principals and our chairmen, they are excited. Our minister would have articulated that. We have met with our chairmen, we have met with our principals, they are fully on board. At the regional level, the leaders are now meeting to design the specificity of the twinning within each school or the pairs of school. And then we will now meet with our teachers because they are very important to the success. So if it is a programmatic twinning, if it is a student-to-student twinning, we are excited even about that because we know the strength of the student councils in our school. Yes. We know the value of building the leadership skills of our young people who will take over this country. We want to pull on those strengths from our children to enable each other. Nothing beats a peer-to-peer influence. Wonderful. And that is the value of the Twinning in School program.
We have only a few minutes to go. Let me just go to Sean on Facebook, and I want to thank everybody who has been participating on social media in this discussion. Sean on Facebook asks, is reprimanding a child by beating allowed in schools? And I will say straight off the bat, the Prime Minister has already pronounced on that matter. Has the education code then changed? Because really, this issue of beating in schools goes to the heart of our violence issue, really and truly. But I'll allow you all to speak more about it. You're the experts. Okay. Mrs. Berry.
And so we speak about corporal punishment.
Yes.
And we have been advising our schools for the past perhaps 4 years or more that corporal punishment is not allowed. Corporal punishment is something that we have inherited in Jamaica, perhaps all the way back to slavery. It has become associated with discipline. We have moved beyond that in our education system to understand that it does not have a place and that children are different. There will be challenges, but there are ways of treating with them to have them understand without allowing them to be hurt, physically or emotionally. And so we have asked that it not be practiced. We have provided to our schools correspondence regarding corporal punishment. While it's not a statute, it certainly is captured in some other statutes to treat with child abuse. And so
are we going to harmonize then real quickly those statutes? For example, the education code, I would assume then remains in place where it's part of the code.
It remains in place, but we have started the review in earnest. We expect that it will go to Cabinet for formal drafting instructions to be provided within the course of this calendar year.
So that we can repeal it altogether.
Yes, and that aspect of the act which speaks to corporal punishment has been looked at.
Thank you, wonderful. So as we close then, may I just ask each of you, just for your wish then for the 2019-2020 academic year and for our children really in the education system overall. I'll start with Dr. Troop and end with Dr. McLean.
Really and truly, Naomi, we wish for a productive and impactful year. Our students are very important to us and we want them to be successful. So any activity, any idea that will redound to the student success, we will support that. I encourage all my parents, all my teachers, come to the regional offices, come and talk to your directors. We are ready and waiting to support you, to enable you. Our regional, our CEO, our PS, they would have enabled us to say whatever it takes to get the activities done, to get our students to perform, let's get it going. And we are ready for that. So speak to your regional directors, and I wish for you, all my teachers out there, we value you, all my leaders out there, we respect what you have done, and we stand ready to support you.
Thank you, Dr. Troop. Mrs. Berry?
And so, Naomi, we have not left God out of this journey. We have asked him for his guidance, and we understand also how important it is to work hard, to put our shoulders to the wheel, to understand what the issues are. We look for an even more inclusive system where every child can learn and every child must learn. We're prepared, we're there to support, and give us a call. We're ready and able to ensure that this happens in this 21st century Jamaica. And in the year 2019-2020 is not too early.
Thank you, Mrs. Berry. And to mold then the modern child into the great leader that we want for our country and the world.
Yes,
what do we do in education, Dr. McLean?
The optimally rounded child, the one who is ready for the 21st century and the one who will fit into the industrial revolution that we are currently in now and be ready for the 5th industrial revolution. My wish to the system is that you see us as educators as your servants. We are here at Central and within the regions, but we understand what it is where the rubber hits the road. And so I would like for our board chairs, our principals, our teachers, our administrative ancillary staff, our parents to seek service and support from the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information. Service can be provided at whatever time you need it. It can be provided during the course of the week. It can be provided on a weekend. It can be provided in the evenings. It can even be provided in the nights if you so desire. Our education officers, they do have closed user group telephone numbers. And Naomi, I tell you, my officers respond 24/7 to the needs of the Jamaican people. And so we want Jamaica to know that the Ministry of Education, Youth and Information is open for business and service excellence, and we want you to capitalize on the opportunity as we prepare our children to take their rightful places in this society and by extension the rest of the world.
Wow, thank you so much, Dr. McLean, Mrs. Berry, Dr. Troop. Certainly, I think many people would be assured today of the support that the ministry offers, not just to students, but to teachers and all stakeholders in the education system. And certainly your encouragement to ensure that they have that conversation, to ensure that you meet the needs of the modern child, really, is very important. I want to thank you so much and wish you all the very best for the school year and beyond. You're doing a fantastic job, and we thank you so much for your service to our children and to Jamaica at large. Thank you so much. And that's it for OPM Connect today. We'll be back next week with another program. I'm Naomi Francis. Set. All phones on.